When asked about Randolph Scott, James Garner finally comes clean. In Norman, Oklahoma, on April 7, 1928, James Scott "Bum" Garner came into this world. He developed a strong work ethic and an honest character as a result of his upbringing in a tiny town during the Great Depression. The early years of Garner's life were challenging. Weldon Bumner had a hard time providing stability after his mother passed away when he was just 5 years old. During his formative years, James lived with various relatives and worked odd jobs to make ends meet. These initial challenges imbued him with the quiet strength and profound empathy that would come to define his on-screen persona. Garner distinguished himself in the military before he ever thought about a career in acting. He entered the Merchant Navy when he was 16 years old and served in the United States Army during the Korean War, where he was awarded 2 Purple Hearts, due of his courage while fighting. His bravery and self-control as a soldier carried over into his acting career, where he frequently played patriotic heroes who refused to back down from a fight for justice. He was physically and emotionally scarred from his time in the war. Yet he emerged from it with what set him apart from other leading men in Hollywood was his great humility and his refusal to romanticize valor. Almost by chance, Garner stepped into the acting world. Moving to Los Angeles after his return from the war, he took up a variety of tasks, one of which was modeling for print commercials. A talent agency saw his handsome good looks, composed personality, and inherent charisma one day as he was assisting a buddy with a role. Instead of going to school for acting, he started out by playing bit parts in films and TV shows. In 1957, he got his big break upon landing the role of Brett Maverick in the popular television series Maverick. Garner became famous overnight thanks to the show's astute blend of comedy, adventure, and Western allure. His Maverick was not like the stereotypical Western hero. He was clever, rarely fought unless absolutely required, and had a lightning-fast retaliation maneuver at the ready. Accurately portrays Garner's character in real life. James Garner became one of the most marketable stars of the 1960s once Maverick became a hit. From romantic comedies like 1963's The Thrill of It All to 1963's Move Over Darling co-starring Doris Day, he moved fluidly into the film industry. He was equally at home in military epics like 1963's The Great Escape, co-starring Steve McQueen. Audiences could relate to Garner's laid-back charisma, and critics praised his nuanced emotional depth. Rather than succumb to the Hollywood egotism that plagued many of his peers, he opted for a more low-key approach, realistic and truthful perspective on celebrity. He was a real gentleman, according to his co-workers, who was also very professional, generous, and refreshingly humble. One of the most famous detective series of the 1970s, The Rockford Files, had Garner enthralling audiences once again. As the witty private investigator Jim Rockford, who, reimagining the paradigm of the TV hero, Garner favored talking his way out of problems instead of using violence. He won an Emmy in 1977 and won the hearts of viewers everywhere with the show's unique combination of humor, intelligence, and realism. Garner did a lot of his own stunts for the part, which was very physically demanding. He frequently hurt himself while doing so on his well-being in the long run. But his commitment remained unfaltering. Despite suffering from persistent back pain and extreme fatigue, he was renowned for his unwavering commitment to his career. Grace and adaptability were hallmarks of Garner's latter career. It was featured in highly regarded films including Murphy's Romance, 1985, for which he was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, and The Notebook, 2004, in which he captivated audiences around the world with his gentle portrayal of a husband tending to his sick wife. He made a triumphant return to television with a string of hits like Maverick and Rocky reunion films, demonstrating the enduring power of his charisma and charismatic personality. Speaking out against unjust studio practices and pushing for creative independence in Hollywood, Garner was also a revered supporter of actors' rights. A lasting love tale that mirrored James Garner's professional life, just like his on-screen presence, which was beloved by fans for his warmth, stability, and quiet strength. Lois Josephine Fletchman Clark, a lively and attractive lady who would be his partner for nearly 60 years, was his only marriage. Their encounter was the stuff of lucky breaks in Hollywood. It was during a gathering in 1956 when Garner and Lois first met, and they hit it off. "We had supper every night for 14 nights," he recalled later, because she utterly enchanted him with her boundless enthusiasm and positive attitude. "I was really obsessed with her. Only the briefness of their romance could compare to the intensity of it." They tied the knot on August 17, 1956, after only 16 days of courtship. Their marriage shocked everyone and lasted far longer than anybody had anticipated, especially considering the era in which whirlwind romances were common. "It nearly destroyed me when Garner, in his characteristic hilarious fashion, would joke about how much they had spent on their honeymoon, 70 sessions. The actor, who maintained his humility and charisma despite his success, was known for making ribald, self-congratulatory remarks like that. In his humorous descriptions of marriage, Garner frequently being forthright, drawing parallels to one's time of serving in the military. Contrast marriage with an army. He once made a joke about how many people re-enlist despite everyone complaining. He and Lois had traits like dedication and tenacity, which the comparison highlighted rather than cynicism. Like every long-term marriage, theirs had its ups and downs, but they were committed to one another and loved one another deeply. The couple's mutual regard went beyond the cultural and spiritual distinctions that Lois's Judaism brought to their family life. Though he was never one to be dogmatic about his faith, Garner welcomed her beliefs wholeheartedly and took solace in the harmony she gave to his otherwise chaotic career as an actor. Lois had a little kid from a prior marriage when she and her husband were married. Kim, her 9-year-old daughter, was still bouncing back from the after effects of many youngsters of that time had to deal with the long-term effects of polio. Garner patiently and compassionately assumed the position of stepfather, offering Lois and her kid security and affection. It was just one way his character reflected the modest goodness of his acting in fictional roles. His friends and family frequently spoke about his selflessness and strong sense of responsibility, even though he never wanted praise for his acts of kindness. With the arrival of their daughter, Greta C. Garner, on January 4, 1958, Garner and Lois became parents for the first time. The She family went on to become a successful producer and philanthropist after her own successful career. Throughout his life, Garner's adoration for his family shone through. He spoke fondly and proudly of his daughters. An unusually long marriage, the Garners' lasted for almost 58 years. Success in the entertainment industry, where stardom, huge distances, and public scrutiny can cause relationships to fail. Having said that, they did not go through life unscathed. The first separation lasted 3 months in 1970, and the second, which was longer, occurred in 1979. Even though Garner and Lois were away for a while, he later said that they needed room to develop as people, but it never seemed like they were really apart. "We just needed a little distance," he once stated. But we always found our way back. As promised, the pair got back together in September 1981 and renewed their vows. James Garner was very careful not to trash anyone during his legendary Hollywood career. His gentlemanly demeanor and easygoing charisma made him reluctant to get involved in the scandals that surrounded the film industry. However, Garner shocked many with his frank comments when the topic of Randolph Scott arose in subsequent interviews. According to what Garner claimed previously, Randolph Scott was among the most reclusive and baffling individuals in Hollywood. Because of his charisma, people assumed they knew him, picture displayed on the screen. The genuine man, however, was a completely other animal. An aspect of Scott formed by discipline, silent power, and a code of behavior that appeared to have sprung from a different time was revealed by Garner with this comment, which few ever witnessed. Garner, who became famous after Scott had already established his esteemed repute as one of the most legendary Western performers of Hollywood, respected him for his performances and character. As Garner reflected on her own early acting career, she said, "Scott was already a legend when she was a teenager. He had an air of self-confidence that belied his years. You could feel their genuine presence rather than any stage presence or pretense." According to Garner, Scott might have commanded respect without resorting to loud noises or showy actions. He could command any room with his cool assurance and subtle charisma. Scott embodied, in Garner's view, a Hollywood ideal of manhood that was in decline, a man whose deeds, more than his words, conveyed his immense integrity. Scott was also a mysterious man, but Garner made no bones about it. His personal life was something he kept hidden. Nobody really, he claimed, had a clue as to what was going on beneath that calm facade. Even after months of working together, you would never feel like you know him. The extreme secrecy, in Garner's opinion, could occasionally cause confusion. The rumors surrounding Scott's private life, relationships, and notwithstanding his outward-seeming coldness, Garner chose to ignore the rumors. People made up stories because he didn't give them anything real to talk about, said Garner. He avoided the trappings of Hollywood and never sought stardom. He was satisfied to allow his job perform the speaking. Garner was impressed by Scott's level of professionalism during filming. He was punctual, funny, and respectful to the director, crew, and everyone else involved. That might not sound complicated, but when you're dealing with Hollywood, that level of consistency is very uncommon. Scott was a firm believer in getting the work done properly each and every time. Scott had strict social norms and disciplined behavior as a child in the South, according to Garner. His honorable demeanor was a hallmark of the South, in every single place. This was pointed out by Garner. He always managed to disagree with someone in a classy and understated way. Garner seemed thoughtful when asked about the lasting impact of Scott. Although Randolph Scott wasn't the most flamboyant or showy performer, his impact was immeasurable. According to him, gimmicks are unnecessary. His demeanor was unwavering, and you blindly trusted his words. Yeah, that's acting. In addition, Garner showed that Scott's impact was felt outside of the Western genre. He laid up the criteria for being a principal actor. Strong, reliable, and a man of principle, Garner described him. Audiences held those characteristics in high regard. Many of us, whether intentionally or not, made an effort to meet that standard. Having said that, Garner did concede that he occasionally experienced emotional distance as a result of his physical distance. According to Garner, he was not the type of man to have deep conversations with. He didn't wear his feelings on his sleeve. That would explain why his characters were always so cool under fire. There he was. But this wasn't anything that bothered Garner. He saw that as a sign of Scott's genuine character, though. He didn't pretend to be open or emotional just to please people. According to Garner, that's who he was, something I held in the highest regard. Ultimately, Garner's remarks regarding Randolph Scott served as both an homage and an understated revelation. In Garner's opinion, the best way to characterize him is as steadfast. He remained unmoved by passing fads or peer pressure. He was unwavering in his adherence to his own code of conduct. The statements were profoundly meaningful because they came from James Garner, a man renowned for his humility and honesty. The audience was reminded that beneath the icy cowboy of Hollywood was a man of extraordinary self-control, grace, and complexity through Garner's unusual look into Scott's character, a genuine Hollywood original whose understated power influenced many. James Garner's untimely death in 2014, just days before his and Lois Clark's 58th wedding anniversary, tragically ended one of Hollywood's most legendary love stories. His passing, and when it occurred, underlined the depth of their nearly 60 years together, a unique achievement in an industry frequently characterized by transient relationships and shattered marriages, adding a devastating dimension of grief. The unpredictability of celebrity, the weight of public opinion, and the test of time couldn't break the bond that Garner and Lois had shared. They became a living testimony to the enduring power of love, and the undeniable reality that occasionally there is a knowing between two people when they are married in 1956 following only 2 weeks of dating. Garner frequently gushed over Lois in interviews, describing her as his soulmate. Those in the know about the couple have noted that despite his affable exterior picture, he was really committed to her when they were alone. Lois was Garner's rock as his health deteriorated in his twilight years. She took good care of him in their Brentwood home, where he felt safe and protected from the world. A hole was created when James Garner passed away at the age of 86 on July 19, 2014, that would remain with Lois forever. According to her loved ones, she never really recovered from her loss of him, even though she lived another 7 years. Because Lois had lost the man who had been there for her through thick and thin, sharing secrets and sharing in her triumphs and tragedies, spoke a great deal. It was said that her days grew more peaceful as she reminisced about the wonderful times they had together. From his early days of fame on TV with shows like Maverick and The Rockford Files to his later successes in the film industry. With her husband at the helm, she had always been happy to take a back seat, illuminate, but their acquaintances attested that she was his rock-solid confidant. Garner had previously acknowledged that his marriage to Lois was successful, in large part due to her groundedness and the fact that her steady character balanced out his occasionally explosive personality.